The paper made a soft, expensive sound when it hit the counter. It was thicker than normal checks, bright under the bank lights, with a clean border and an embossed seal that caught the afternoon sun. The man who placed it down did it gently, like he was setting a sleeping child into a crib. His hands were steady. His suit was dark and simple, but the cuffs were crisp, the stitching sharp. He smelled faintly of soap and the cool air outside. Dana Whitmore did not look at his face first. Her eyes went straight to the number. $50 million. For a moment, the entire lobby of Harborstone Bank seemed to shrink into that single line of ink. The low hum of air conditioning, the squeak of a stroller wheel near the entrance, the soft clack of keyboard keys from a teller station, everything felt far away. Dana's throat tightened. She blinked once, then again, as if the zeros might rearrange themselves into something normal. The man's voice was calm. "I'd like to deposit it today, and I'll need a receipt." Dana's fingers hovered above the check, not touching it yet, as if the paper might burn. She forced her lips into the kind of polite smile she had practiced since her first day in banking, the one that showed customers she was in control of the situation. "Of course," she said, but her voice came out thinner than she liked. She finally lifted the check. Her nails were neatly filed. Her watch was set exactly to the minute. Everything about her was made of small, controlled decisions. Her eyes scanned the name line. Marcus Reed. Her gaze flicked up. He stood straight, shoulders relaxed, hands folded loosely in front of him. He was black, mid-30s, maybe early 40s, with a face that held its calm like a shield. His hair was trimmed close, his jaw clean-shaven. His eyes didn't wander. They stayed on her, steady, not demanding, not pleading, just waiting. Dana felt something sharp rise in her chest, an alarm that had nothing to do with policy manuals. 50 million didn't walk in off the street. 50 million came with an appointment. It came with private offices upstairs, bottled water, and whispered phone calls. It came with a name everyone recognized, a family everyone knew, a suit that cost more than her monthly rent used to. This didn't match the picture in her head. Her fingers tightened around the check. If you enjoy stories that feel real and hit deep, let's grow this channel together. Please subscribe and enjoy our interesting story every day. "Mr. Reed," she said, reading the name again like it might confirm itself. "May I ask what this is for?" He didn't flinch. "It's a deposit." "Yes, I understand that," Dana said quickly. Too quickly. She heard it herself. She softened her tone. "I mean, this amount is unusual. We'll need to verify it." Marcus nodded once. "That's fine. Verify it." Dana's eyes dropped to the issuing bank name printed at the top. Another institution, private, out of state. Not one she dealt with often. She didn't like that. She didn't like things she couldn't control. She glanced toward the security guard near the door. His name tag read Ortiz. He was leaning slightly, arms crossed, watching the lobby the way guards did when nothing was happening. Dana lifted her chin just a fraction, a silent signal. Ortiz's attention sharpened. Dana looked back at Marcus. "Do you have identification?" Marcus reached into his jacket pocket slowly, not in a dramatic way, just careful, like he knew sudden movements could change the temperature in the room. He placed his ID on the counter. Dana picked it up, checked the photo, the name, the date. It matched. Her heart did not relax. Behind her, one of the tellers, a young woman named Kira, looked up from her station. Kira's eyebrows rose slightly as she spotted the check. Dana felt heat creep into her cheeks, like the bank itself was watching to see what she would do. Dana set the ID down. "Do you have supporting documents? A letter? A contract? Something that explains why you have a $50 million check?" Marcus's expression stayed even. "No." Dana's smile hardened at the edges. "No, it's my money," he said. Not loud, not angry, just simple. It doesn't need an explanation to be deposited. Dana felt the words land in her like a challenge. She hated that. She hated when customers made her feel like she was losing control, even when they were right. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice as if that made her reasonable. "We have responsibilities here. I'm sure you understand. They're scams. Fraud. People. She stopped herself before she said, people like you. But the thought had already formed, and Dana hated herself for even having it. Marcus's gaze didn't change, but something in his eyes went colder. Not hostile. Just closed. I understand responsibilities, he said. Do what you have to do. Dana inhaled through her nose. She smelled the faint scent of his cologne under the bank air, clean, restrained. She watched the way he stood. He wasn't shifting. He wasn't sweating. He wasn't performing. That should have reassured her. Instead, it made her more nervous. Because people who were lying usually had something to prove. This man didn't seem to need to prove anything at all. Dana turned the check slightly, examining it for security features. Microprint line, watermark, the raised seal. It looked real. It felt real. She hated that too. Her mind raced through procedures. A deposit this large would trigger internal alerts. It would require managerial review. It would likely be better handled as a wire, but a check could still be deposited. With holds, verification, compliance review. The correct move was to take it, start the process, and move him to a private office upstairs. Keep it professional. Keep it calm. But Dana didn't move. Instead, she heard her own voice, brittle with suspicion. Where did you get this? Marcus exhaled slowly, the kind of breath someone takes when they are trying to stay patient. From my account. Dana's fingers tightened again. You're telling me you walked in here with a check for $50 million from your account? Yes. Dana's jaw clenched. In her head, she saw headlines, saw fraud cases, saw her own name attached to an error that would end her career. She had worked too hard to be the manager of this branch. Too many late nights studying policies. Too many mornings adjusting her blazer just right. Too many times forcing a smile while a customer spoke down to her. She wasn't going to be the manager who let a scam slide because she was afraid of appearing rude. Dana straightened. I'm sorry, Mr. Reed. I can't accept this. Marcus didn't raise his voice. You can. You don't want to. Dana felt the words hit. They were quiet, but they were sharp. She felt the lobby shrink again, all eyes suddenly on her. Please don't make accusations, Dana said, her voice snapping back into control. This is about bank policy. Marcus tilted his head slightly. What policy says you can refuse a legitimate deposit without verification? Dana's mouth opened. Nothing came out immediately. Kira's keyboard stopped clacking. Even Ortiz shifted his weight, listening. Dana's pulse hammered. She could feel the check between her fingers, like a living thing. She imagined handing it back and watching him walk out, and the bank losing a massive deposit. She imagined accepting it and later being called into an office downtown, being asked why she didn't see the scam, why she didn't protect the bank. She imagined being blamed. That fear was louder than her training. Dana's eyes narrowed. I'm going to need you to step aside while I contact our compliance department. Fine, Marcus said. Do it. He didn't move away. He just stayed at the counter, patient, unbothered. Dana felt her control slipping again. She wanted him to shrink, to apologize, to offer proof, to make it easy for her. He didn't. She looked at the check one more time. $50 million. A number so big it felt like a lie. Then she made a decision she would replay in her head for months. Dana turned slightly, as if to walk toward the manager's desk behind the counter. Her hands moved quickly. She folded the check once, then again. Marcus's eyes tracked the movement. What are you doing? Dana's voice tightened. Securing it. Before he could react, she tore it down the center. The sound was sudden and ugly, a ripping that sliced through the quiet lobby like a scream. Marcus froze. Dana tore again, faster now, the paper resisting for half a second before it gave way. She tore until the $50 million was in pieces. For one heartbeat, Dana felt a wild, desperate relief, like she had stopped something from happening. Then she saw Marcus's face. Not rage, not shock, just something heavy, like disappointment, settling into a place it had been before. Dana's hands went cold. She realized, too late, that what she had done wasn't securing anything. It was destruction. It was humiliation. Ortiz took a step forward. Kira's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus's voice was low. You tore up my check. Dana's lips parted. She tried to speak. Her throat was dry. She started. Before she could finish, the glass door at the entrance opened again. A man in a charcoal suit stepped inside, moving with quick purpose. He was tall, silver-haired, and carried himself like he belonged in every room he entered. He didn't look around in confusion the way most visitors did. His eyes locked on Dana immediately. Dana's stomach dropped. Leonard Price, her boss. Not just her boss, the district operations director. The man who only came to branches when something was wrong or something was important. His presence meant audits and reports and career-ending conversations. Dana's brain scrambled for reason he might be here. An appointment? A surprise inspection? Leonard walked straight toward the counter, his polished shoes tapping against the tile. He didn't smile. His jaw was set. Dana tried to hide the torn pieces behind her hands, but it was too late. The scraps were visible on the counter like confetti from a terrible celebration. Leonard's gaze flicked to the pieces, then to Dana, then to Marcus. His entire posture changed. His shoulders softened. His face opened into something like respect, like urgency. He stepped closer to the counter and nodded at Marcus with a small bow of his head. "Sir," Leonard said, his voice full of careful courtesy. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you had to experience this." Dana felt the word "sir" hit her like a slap. Marcus didn't respond right away. He didn't smile like he had won. He didn't gloat. He just stood there, quiet, while Leonard Price looked at him like he mattered. Dana's ears rang. Leonard turned his head slightly toward Dana, but his eye stayed on Marcus. "Mr. Reed, would you please come with me? We have a private office upstairs." Marcus glanced at the torn pieces on the counter. His voice was steady. "I came to deposit a check." "I know," Leonard said. "We'll make it right. We will." Dana's mouth opened again. This time words came out, but they sounded small. Leonard finally looked at her. There was no warmth in his eyes. "Dana," he said quietly, "step away from the counter." Her breath caught. Kira stared at her. Ortiz's hand hovered near his radio, uncertain. Dana stepped back, her heels clicking once, a sharp sound. Her hands trembled. She tried to press them against her blazer, to hide it. Marcus followed Leonard toward the elevator, without another word. As they walked away, Dana saw something else. Two people near the waiting area who stood up quickly, like they had been waiting. One was a woman with a tablet, hair pulled into a tight bun. The other was a man with an earpiece who moved with security-like awareness. They fell in behind Marcus like a shadow. Dana watched them and felt the floor tilt under her feet. Who was Marcus Reed? And what had she just destroyed? The next hour moved like a slow, painful dream. Leonard did not come back downstairs right away. The lobby returned to its hum, but it wasn't the same. Whispers moved between tellers. Customers stared at Dana in a way that made her skin crawl. Even the air felt colder, like the bank had judged her and found her lacking. Dana went into her tiny manager's office behind the counter and shut the door. Her hand shook so hard she could barely type her password into her computer. Her mind kept replaying the sound of paper ripping. She tried to rationalize. She had prevented fraud. She had acted decisively. She had protected the bank. But those thoughts didn't stick. Because Leonard had called Marcus sir. Because Leonard looked at Marcus the way Leonard never looked at regular customers. Because the two people who followed Marcus upstairs did not look like ordinary banking clients. Dana swallowed hard and stared at her own reflection in the dark computer screen. Her lipstick was still perfect. Her hair still neat. Her face looked like a woman who had everything under control. But inside, she felt like she was falling. 10 minutes later, her office door opened. Leonard stepped in and closed it behind him. Dana stood instinctively, smoothing her blazer, trying to look professional. "Leonard, I can explain." Leonard didn't sit. He didn't offer her the courtesy of calm. He leaned his hands on her desk, palms flat, and looked at her like she was a stranger. "Tell me," he said, voice low, "what you thought you were doing." Dana's mouth went dry. I suspected fraud, she said. The amount was... I know the amount, Leonard cut in. I saw the pieces. Dana forced herself to keep going. We've had scams lately. People bringing fake cashier's checks. I asked for supporting documents, and he refused. I didn't want to. You didn't want to verify, Leonard corrected. You wanted to be right. Dana felt her cheeks burn. That's not fair. Leonard's eyes narrowed. Fair. He straightened slowly, as if he needed space to keep himself under control. Do you know who Marcus Reed is? Dana swallowed. No. Leonard let out a breath through his nose, sharp and controlled. He is the principal of a private investment group that has been in talks to partner with Harborstone on a major community redevelopment fund. He's been meeting with our executive team for months. Today was supposed to be a quiet deposit, part of a larger transaction that was going to be announced next week. Dana's chest tightened. I didn't know. Leonard's face hardened. No, you didn't care to know. You saw a black man with a check you didn't believe he could have. Dana flinched as if he had slapped her. That's not... Dana started, but her voice faltered. Leonard's gaze stayed locked on hers. You tore up the check. Dana's throat closed. I panicked. Leonard's voice was colder now. Panicked is what happens when you see smoke. You saw a man, and you tore up his money. Dana's eyes stung. She blinked rapidly, refusing to cry. Crying in front of Leonard would not help. It would not undo what she had done. Leonard took a folder from under his arm and placed it on her desk with a soft thud. Administrative leave, he said, effective immediately. Dana stared at the folder, her vision swimming. Leonard. Not a discussion, he said. You will be contacted by HR. You will be required to attend an investigation meeting. There will be consequences, Dana. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Leonard's voice softened just a fraction. Not with kindness, but with finality. You've been in banking long enough to know we don't tear up negotiable instruments. Even if you believed it was counterfeit, you follow procedure. You secure it. You make calls. You document. You do not humiliate someone in a lobby. Dana's hands curled into fists on the edge of her desk. She could feel her nails pressing into her palms. Leonard picked up his folder again, turned toward the door, then paused. Mr. Reed asked me to tell you something, Leonard said, without looking at her. Dana's heart lurched. What? Leonard glanced back, eyes unreadable. He said, make sure she learns the difference between policy and power. Then Leonard left. Dana sat down slowly, as if her legs had suddenly forgotten how to hold her. She stared at the closed door for a long time. Outside her office, the bank continued. Customers deposited paychecks. Tellers counted bills. Phones rang. Life moved forward. Dana's world had stopped. That evening, Dana drove home with her hands gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles hurt. The sky was pale, the kind of late afternoon light that made the city look clean even when it wasn't. People walked on sidewalks holding coffees, laughing, living ordinary lives. Dana felt like she was watching them through glass. At home, she didn't turn on lights right away. She stood in her doorway, listening to the quiet of her apartment, the faint hum of a refrigerator, the distant sound of someone's television through a wall, the smell of her own fabric softener lingering on the couch throw. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. Call me when you can. Dana stared at it, then put the phone face down. She went to the bathroom and washed her hands. The water was warm. The soap smelled like lemon. She scrubbed until her skin turned pink. She kept seeing paper tearing. She kept hearing Leonard's voice. You saw a man. Dana leaned over the sink and gripped the edge. Her breath came shallow. She tried to tell herself she wasn't that person. She had worked with black colleagues. She had promoted a black teller last year. She had donated to charity drives. She wasn't a racist. She wasn't. But her mind wasn't letting her escape so easily, because the truth was simpler than the excuses. She had looked at Marcus Reed and decided, in a blink, that he didn't belong with that number. She had decided he was a threat, and she had acted on that decision. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail notification. HR. Dana's stomach tightened. She didn't listen yet. She couldn't. She sat on her couch in the dark and stared at nothing. Hours later, when she finally turned on a lamp, the light felt harsh, exposing. She opened her laptop and searched for Marcus Reed. There were no flashy headlines, no celebrity interviews, no loud social media posts. But there were traces. A photo from a local newspaper. Marcus standing behind a podium at a small community center, shaking hands with a group of teenagers. His suit, there was the same kind of simple, clean suit. His smile on that photo was small, almost reluctant. Another article. A scholarship fund he had started. Another. A manufacturing plant expansion bringing jobs. Another. A quiet donation to rebuild a storm-damaged neighborhood. Dana's chest tightened with each click. He wasn't a mysterious billionaire with a private jet and a dramatic entrance. He was something more unsettling. He was real. He was consistent. He was the kind of person Dana told herself she admired. And she had torn up his check. She closed the laptop. In the silence, her own heartbeat sounded loud. The HR meeting was scheduled for 2 days later. Dana spent those 2 days rehearsing explanations in her head, the way she used to rehearse customer conversations in her mirror when she first got the manager job. It was fraud prevention. It was procedure. It was stress. But every time she tried to shape the story into something that made her look less awful, Leonard's words cut through it. You wanted to be right. Dana didn't sleep much. When she did, she dreamed of paper tearing endlessly, like the sound never stopped. On the morning of the HR meeting, Dana dressed like she was going to court. Black blazer, white blouse, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. She wanted to look composed. She wanted to look like the kind of person who didn't make impulsive, humiliating mistakes. She failed before she even left her apartment, because her hands shook while she buttoned her blouse. The HR office was not in the branch building. It was downtown, in a larger corporate building where everything smelled faintly of coffee and carpet cleaner. The waiting room had neutral art on the walls, beige chairs, a small table with magazines Dana didn't recognize, a bowl of mints. Dana sat, spine straight, ankles crossed, hands folded tightly. When her name was called, she stood quickly, smoothing her blazer again. The HR representative was a woman named Sloan Hayes. She had kind eyes and a face trained for difficult conversations. There was another person in the room, a compliance officer named Mark Ellison, and a legal liaison on speakerphone. Dana's stomach twisted. Sloan gestured to a chair. Dana, thank you for coming. Dana sat. The chair felt too low. Sloan's voice was gentle but firm. We're going to review what happened at the branch on Tuesday. This meeting is part of an internal investigation. We will ask questions, and we ask that you answer honestly. Dana nodded. Yes. Mark Ellison opened a folder. Do you acknowledge that you tore a negotiable instrument belonging to a customer? Dana swallowed. Yes. Sloan looked at her carefully. Why? Dana's mind raced. She could feel the pressure in her chest like a heavy hand. She tried to speak calmly. I believed it was fraudulent, she said. The amount was unusual. He refused to provide supporting documents. I panicked and made a bad decision. Mark's eyes stayed sharp. Did you follow any verification steps before destroying it? Dana's cheeks burned. I checked ID. I looked at the check's security features. And you tore it anyway, Mark said. Dana's voice softened, almost pleading. I thought if it was fake, keeping it intact could be dangerous. Like I'd be letting a scam continue. Sloan leaned in slightly. Dana, you've been trained. Even in the case of suspected fraud, you do not destroy the instrument. You document, secure, and escalate. You know that. Dana lowered her eyes. Yes. There was a pause, long enough for Dana to hear the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Then Sloan spoke again, and her words landed like stones. Dana, we also need to address the nature of your suspicion. Mr. Reed has expressed that he felt targeted and humiliated. He felt your actions were influenced by racial bias. Dana's throat tightened. I'm not. Dana started, then stopped. Because the phrase, I'm not racist, suddenly felt thin, like tissue paper. Sloan waited. Dana inhaled slow. I didn't intend to humiliate him, she said. I was trying to protect the bank. Mark's voice was flat. Intent doesn't erase impact. Dana's eyes stung again. She blinked rapidly. Sloane's tone stayed steady. Mr. Reed has not filed a public complaint at this time, but he has requested that the bank address this seriously. Dana clenched her hands under the table. What does he want? Sloane's eyes held hers. He wants accountability. He wants corrective action. He wants to know that this won't happen again to someone else. Dana's breath caught. Mark flipped a page. Your employment status is under review. There's also a matter of restitution. Dana swallowed. Restitution. Sloane nodded. The check was a bank draft. It must be reissued. That process involves fees, verification, and delay. Mr. Reed's transaction timeline has been affected. Dana felt shame flush through her like heat. Mark's voice was clinical. You are suspended without pay pending final review. You will be required to attend bias awareness training, compliance retraining, and a performance improvement review if your employment continues. Dana's lips parted. Without pay. Sloane's voice softened slightly. Dana, what happened was serious. Dana nodded slowly, throat tight. I understand. But she didn't fully understand yet. Not in her bones. Not in the way that would change her. She understood she was in trouble. She understood she might lose her career. She didn't yet understand what Marcus Reed had carried out of that bank besides torn paper. When the meeting ended, Dana walked out of the building into cold air that made her eyes water. She stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, watching people hurry by, holding their own lives close. She felt exposed, like everyone could see what she had done. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Leonard. Do not contact Mr. Reed. Do not contact anyone associated with him. HR will communicate. Dana stared at the screen, then tucked the phone away. Her first instinct was to defend herself, to find a way to make this smaller than it was. But as she stood there, she remembered Marcus's face again. Not angry, disappointed, and she wondered, for the first time, what that disappointment felt like from inside his body. 2 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and silence. Dana stayed home more than she ever had in her adult life. The days felt too long. Without the bank's constant rhythm, her mind had nothing to hide behind. She received emails from HR with training schedules. She received a formal notice about her suspension. She watched her savings account balance shrink with each bill. Her mother called every day. At first Dana let it ring. Then she answered, because ignoring her mother made her feel like she was becoming someone else entirely. What happened? Her mother asked on the third call, voice sharp with worry. Dana tried to explain. She tried to make it sound like an error in judgment, a procedural mistake. Her mother listened quietly. Then she said, Dana, did you tear it because you thought he didn't belong? Dana's throat tightened. No. Her mother didn't argue. She just sighed, a sound full of exhaustion. Baby, you have to be honest with yourself, because if you're not, you'll do it again. Dana hung up after that call and sat on her kitchen floor for a long time. Her bias training was held in a windowless room in the corporate building. There were about 10 employees in the session, some looking annoyed, some looking ashamed, some looking bored. Dana sat in the front row. The trainer was a man with a calm voice and tired eyes, the kind of person who had seen people resist change for years. He didn't lecture them like children. He didn't throw accusations around. He talked about stress, about fear, about snap judgments, about what happens when people believe neutral policy is separate from human behavior. He talked about how professionalism can become a mask for control. Dana hated how much it hit her. At one point, the trainer asked them to write down a time they felt out of place. Dana's pen hovered over the paper. She thought of her first day at the bank as an entry-level teller, her cheap shoes, her thrift store blazer, the way an older manager had looked her up and down and said, "You'll need to polish your image if you want to grow here." Dana remembered the burn of shame. She wrote it down. Then the trainer asked them to write down a time they made someone else feel out of place. Dana's hand froze. She saw Marcus Reed again, standing at her counter while she held his check like it was dirty. Her pen shook as she wrote. When the session ended, everyone filed out quickly, eager to escape discomfort. Dana stayed seated. The trainer noticed and came over, not invading her space, just standing nearby. "You're quiet," he said gently. Dana swallowed. "I keep thinking. I thought I was doing the right thing." The trainer nodded slowly. "Most people do." Dana's voice was thin. "Then what am I supposed to do with that?" The trainer looked at her for a long moment. "You're supposed to stop turning right into a shield. You're supposed to get curious about what you did and why. Not to punish yourself. To change." Dana nodded, but the words didn't feel like enough. Because change sounded like something you could do later, in private, without anyone seeing. And Dana had already learned the hardest part. Impact doesn't stay private. A month after the incident, HR called Dana in for a final decision meeting. She sat in the same beige chair as before, feeling the same low nausea. Sloan Hayes was there again. Mark Ellison, too. Leonard Price sat at the far end of the table, face unreadable. Dana's palms were damp. She pressed them against her thighs. Sloan spoke first. "Dana, we've concluded our investigation." Dana held her breath. Sloan's voice stayed steady. "Your actions were a severe violation of policy. They created financial harm to a client and reputational risk to the bank. Under normal circumstances, this would result in immediate termination." Dana's stomach dropped. Sloan continued. "However, there are factors being considered, including your prior performance record and—" Leonard shifted slightly, and Dana felt his presence like weight. Sloan finished, "and Mr. Reed's position on how he wants this handled." Dana's head lifted. "His position." Mark spoke this time. "Mr. Reed requested that you not be terminated." Dana blinked, stunned. "Why?" Leonard's voice cut in, low and controlled. "Because he doesn't want a scapegoat. He wants a change." Dana stared at Leonard, not understanding. Sloan explained. "Mr. Reed said he has no interest in a dramatic firing that gets swept under the rug. He wants the bank to improve training and process. He wants you to face the consequences and do the work." Dana felt something twist in her chest. Relief mixed with something worse. Something like humiliation. Mark added, "You will be demoted from branch manager to senior teller. You will be placed under a 6-month performance review. You will not have discretionary authority for large transactions. You will complete an additional compliance certification. You will also be required to participate in community outreach events sponsored by the bank." Dana's throat tightened. A demotion felt like a public mark, a stamp of failure. Leonard's eyes stayed on her. "This is your second chance," he said quietly. "Most people don't get one." Dana swallowed. "Why is he doing this?" Leonard's voice was flat. "Because he understands what happens when people are discarded instead of changed. Don't waste it." Dana signed the documents with a hand that trembled less than before, but still trembled. When she left the building, the air outside felt different. She wasn't free. She wasn't forgiven. She had been handed a long road, and she had no idea if she deserved it. Returning to the branch was worse than being suspended. Dana walked into Harborstone Bank 2 days later wearing the same kind of blazer she always wore, but it felt like costume fabric now, too thin to protect her. Kira was at her teller station. She looked up when Dana entered, eyes wide. Ortiz nodded once, guarded. The lobby smelled the same. The tiles looked the same. But Dana felt like she had stepped into a room where everyone knew her secret. Her new supervisor was a man named Thomas Raines, the interim branch manager appointed after Dana's demotion. He was in his late 40s, calm, and had the tired eyes of someone who'd worked too many years in financial services. Thomas called Dana into his office. He didn't yell. He didn't lecture. That somehow made it worse. "You know why you're here," Thomas said, "so I'm not going to waste time." Dana nodded, spine stiff. Thomas slid a new nameplate across the desk. It didn't say manager. It said senior teller. Dana stared at it. "You'll work the counter," Thomas said. "You'll follow procedure. Every time. No improvisation." Dana's jaw tightened. "Yes." Thomas's gaze was steady. You don't have to like this. But if you want to stay, you will do the work. Dana nodded again. As she left his office, she heard murmurs from the teller line. She kept her face neutral, like she had been trained, but inside she felt raw. At her station, she logged in with a new access level. Fewer permissions, less control. The first customer she served that day was an older woman with shaking hands who struggled to sign her name. Dana helped her slowly, patiently, guiding the pen without rushing. The woman smiled with relief. "Thank you, dear," she said. Dana nodded, throat tight. The second customer was a man in a suit who snapped his fingers and spoke down to her like she was furniture. Dana smiled through it, the way she always had, but this time the humiliation tasted different. She wondered how many people she had made feel small without realizing it. Then, near the end of the day, Marcus Reed walked in. Dana's entire body froze for a split second. He wasn't alone. The same woman with the tablet was with him, and a different man with an earpiece. Marcus didn't march in like he was making a point. He entered quietly, like he belonged anywhere he stepped. The lobby grew tense anyway. People noticed. People remembered. Dana's heart pounded. Thomas Raines immediately came out from behind his office door, stepping into the lobby with practiced ease. He greeted Marcus with a handshake. "Mr. Reed," Thomas said, respectful. "Welcome." Marcus nodded. "I'm here to sign final documents." Thomas gestured toward the private office upstairs. "Of course." As Marcus passed the teller line, his gaze flicked toward Dana. Dana's breath caught. She didn't know what to do with her face. She didn't know whether to look down or meet his eyes. She met them. Marcus's expression was calm, not warm, not cruel, just aware. Dana forced herself to speak, voice quiet. "Mr. Reed." Marcus paused for half a second. The lobby held its breath. "Yes," he said. Dana swallowed. Her hands gripped the edge of her counter. "I'm sorry for what I did." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "I know," he said. That was all. Then he walked on with Thomas. Dana stood there, shaking slightly, while the bank resumed its quiet hum. I know it wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't absolution. It was acknowledgement, and it left Dana with nowhere to hide. After that day, Dana kept her head down and did the work. The compliance certification was harder than she remembered. It required long evenings studying regulations, memorizing procedures, learning again what she should have followed instinctively. She passed the first exam by a narrow margin. She didn't celebrate. She just kept going. The community outreach events were new territory. Harborstone Bank partnered with local nonprofits to offer financial literacy workshops. Dana was assigned to attend and assist. The first workshop was held in a community center that smelled like old gym mats and fresh coffee. Folding chairs were set up in rows. A whiteboard stood at the front. A handful of teenagers sat with their arms crossed, faces guarded. A few parents hovered near the back. Dana arrived early, wearing a simple sweater instead of her blazer, trying not to look like a corporate intruder. The program coordinator, a woman named Nia, greeted her with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thanks for coming," Nia said. Dana nodded. "Of course." Nia's gaze was sharp. "This is not a photo op." Dana flinched. "I understand." Nia watched her for a moment, then handed her a stack of pamphlets. "Set these out." Dana did it quietly. During the workshop, she sat near the side, listening more than speaking. The presenter talked about budgeting, credit scores, how banks work, how interest can help you or hurt you. Teens asked skeptical questions. Parents asked worried ones. Dana found herself answering gently when asked directly. She explained how to open a basic account, how to avoid overdraft fees, how to read statements. She didn't talk down. She didn't show off. At the end, a teenage boy approached her. He had a hoodie pulled up, eyes wary. "So, you work at the bank," he said. Dana nodded. "Yes." He shrugged. "My mom says banks don't want people like us." Dana felt something press on her chest. She could have argued. She could have said, "That's not true." But she remembered Marcus's face and Leonard's words. Dana spoke carefully. Sometimes banks act like that, she admitted. Sometimes people in banks make mistakes. The boy stared at her, surprised by her honesty. Dana continued quietly. But there are also ways to protect yourself, and there are ways to demand better. The boy didn't smile, but he nodded slowly, as if considering that. After he walked away, Dana sat in her car afterward and stared at her steering wheel for a long time. For the first time, she understood that bias wasn't always loud hatred. Sometimes it was quiet disbelief. Sometimes it was fear disguised as policy. And sometimes it was a person like her, thinking she was the hero of the story while making someone else feel like a suspect. Months passed. Dana's demotion became a quiet fact in the branch. People stopped whispering as much. Some co-workers stayed distant. Others softened slightly when they saw her working hard, taking criticism without snapping back. Kira, the young teller, eventually spoke to Dana one evening while they were closing. "I didn't know what to think," Kira admitted, stacking paperwork. "At first I was mad. Then I was scared, because it could have been me making a mistake like that one day." Dana nodded slowly. "I didn't think it would be me." Kira glanced at her. "Do you hate him?" Dana looked up, surprised. "No." Kira hesitated. "Because I heard some people say he did this to ruin you." Dana's stomach tightened. "He didn't ruin me," she said softly. "I did." Kira studied her for a moment, then nodded and went back to her work. Dana didn't feel relief. She felt the weight of truth. Halfway through Dana's 6-month review, Thomas Raines called her into his office again. Dana sat across from him, spine straight, hands folded. Thomas slid a paper across the desk. "Your performance has improved," he said. "No procedural violations. Customer feedback is mostly positive." Dana exhaled slowly, not realizing she'd been holding her breath. Thomas's eyes stayed on her. "But I need to be clear. Improvement doesn't erase what happened." Dana nodded. "I know." Thomas leaned back slightly. "Mr. Reed has requested a meeting with you." Dana's stomach dropped. "A meeting?" Thomas nodded. "Not here. At the community center. It's related to the bank's partnership project." Dana's mouth went dry. "Why?" Thomas's expression was neutral. He didn't say, but he asked specifically. Dana felt her pulse in her throat. She left Thomas's office feeling like she was walking toward a storm. The meeting was scheduled for a Thursday evening. Dana arrived early again. The community center smelled the same. Old gym mats, coffee, faint cleaning supplies. Children's laughter echoed from another room. She stood near the front, hands clasped tightly, and waited. When Marcus Reed walked in, he was alone this time. He wore a simple gray sweater, no suit jacket. His sleeves were pushed slightly up his forearms. He looked less like an investor and more like someone who belonged here. Dana's breath caught. Marcus didn't rush. He approached slowly, stopping a few feet away. Dana forced herself to speak. "Mr. Reed." Marcus nodded. Dana, hearing her name and his voice, made her stomach twist. She swallowed. "Thank you for meeting with me." Marcus's expression was calm. "This isn't a favor." Dana nodded. "I understand." There was a pause. The air between them felt charged and quiet. Marcus looked around the room. "You've been coming here." Dana's throat tightened. "Yes." "Why?" he asked. Dana hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because it's required. And because I needed to." Marcus studied her. Needed to what? Dana's voice was quiet. "To understand." Marcus's gaze held hers. "Do you?" Dana swallowed. Her hands trembled slightly, but she didn't hide them. "I understand I humiliated you," she said. "I understand I treated you like you didn't belong. I understand I used policy as a weapon because I was afraid, and because I believed something about you that wasn't true." Marcus didn't react outwardly. He just listened. Dana continued, voice tight. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just saying it out loud because it's true." Marcus was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Most people never say it out loud." Dana's eyes stung. "I wish I could undo it." Marcus's voice stayed steady. "You can't." Dana nodded, swallowing hard. Marcus shifted his weight slightly, as if deciding something. The check you tore up was part of a fund, he said. Not just for the bank, for this neighborhood. Dana's breath caught. Marcus continued. Harbor Stone is partnering to finance small businesses here. Renovations, loans, grants. Some of that money is meant to stay in this community, to build things people actually need. Dana's chest tightened, and I delayed it. Yes, Marcus said simply. Dana felt shame wash over her again, deeper now, because she could see the ripple beyond her own career. I'm sorry. Marcus's gaze was steady. I didn't ask to meet you to hear sorry again. Dana's stomach tightened. Then why? Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly, not with anger, but with focus. Because I'm putting conditions on the partnership. Dana stared. Conditions. Marcus nodded. Harbor Stone will run workshops here, consistently. Not just when cameras show up. They will offer transparent terms. They will build a process where people can ask questions without being treated like criminals. Dana swallowed. Okay. Marcus's gaze stayed on her. And you, he said, will be part of it. Dana's breath caught. Me? Marcus's voice was calm. Not as punishment, as accountability. Dana's mind raced. I'm just a senior teller now. Marcus's mouth twitched slightly, not quite a smile. Titles don't matter as much as presence. Dana felt something shift inside her, uncomfortable and unfamiliar. Marcus continued. I want the person who tore up my check to look people in the eye and explain the system to them. I want you to learn what power feels like on the other side of the counter. Dana's throat tightened. I'll do it. Marcus studied her for a long moment. That's the easy answer, he said. Doing it is harder. Dana nodded. I know. Marcus turned slightly, as if ready to leave, then paused. Dana. She looked up. Marcus's voice softened just a fraction. I asked them not to fire you because I don't believe in public sacrifice, but don't confuse that with kindness. Dana swallowed. I won't. Marcus nodded once. Then he walked out, leaving Dana standing alone in the community center, breathing shallowly, feeling like she had been handed something heavy and real. After that meeting, Dana's weeks filled with work that wasn't about climbing a ladder. She went to the community center twice a week after her bank shifts. She helped run workshops. She listened to people's anger and distrust without arguing. She explained fees and loan terms with honesty, including the parts that sounded unfair. She learned to say, I don't know, but I will find out, instead of pretending control. At first, people looked at her like she was a spy. Some were blunt. You're here because you got caught, an older man said once, crossing his arms. Dana nodded. Yes. He blinked, surprised she didn't fight it. A woman with tired eyes said, Banks always take. They don't give. Dana answered softly. Then we should build something that proves you wrong. Or we should stop pretending banks deserve your trust. That earned Dana a few slow nods. Not forgiveness, not trust, but a crack in the wall. Meanwhile, at the branch, things shifted too. Thomas Raines began implementing stricter procedure training, not just for Dana, but for everyone. There were new guidelines. Large transactions were to be handled with privacy and respect, no matter who the customer was. Suspicion was to be documented, not dramatized. Escalations were to be calm, not humiliating. Dana saw co-workers roll their eyes at first. Then she saw how the new approach protected them too. It gave them structure, boundaries, less room for panic decisions. One afternoon, a young black woman walked into the branch carrying a worn envelope. Her clothes were clean but clearly budgeted. She approached Dana's teller station with a nervous smile. I need to deposit this, the woman said, sliding a check across. Dana glanced down. It wasn't $50 million, but it was enough to matter. $20,000. The woman's hands shook slightly. It's from settlement. I've never had this much at once. Dana felt a flicker of the old instinct, the quick calculation, the suspicion that rose when something didn't match her mental picture. But now she recognized that instinct like a warning light on a dashboard. She didn't obey it. She observed it. Dana smiled gently. "Congratulations," she said. "Let's do this the right way. I'll verify it and make sure everything is smooth. Do you have ID?" The woman nodded quickly, relieved. Dana handled it calmly, explaining each step, offering a private room if she wanted it. The woman's shoulders slowly relaxed. When the deposit was complete, the woman exhaled and smiled wide, eyes wet with relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "I was scared you'd think." Dana's chest tightened. She knew exactly what the woman meant. Dana shook her head gently. "I'm glad you came in," she said. After the woman left, Dana sat for a moment with her hands still, feeling the echo of what could have happened, feeling how easily she could have been the person who reinforced that fear again. And she realized that growth wasn't one big apology. It was 1,000 small choices, repeated, even when no one applauded. As the partnership project moved forward, the bank began renovating a vacant building near the community center. It would become a small business hub, with offices, meeting rooms, and an advising center. Marcus Reed was present for many meetings. He didn't dominate the room. He asked questions. He pushed for clarity. He insisted on transparency. Dana attended when she could, not because she was important, but because Marcus wanted her there. At first, Dana hated how exposed it made her feel. Every time Marcus entered, she remembered the lobby, the tearing sound, the word "sir" in Leonard's voice. But over time, Dana noticed something else. Marcus didn't treat people like servants. He didn't use wealth as a weapon. He didn't demand worship. He held boundaries without cruelty. Dana began to understand that respect wasn't something you begged for. It was something you practiced, consistently, until it became real. One evening, after a long meeting about loan terms and community oversight, Dana found herself alone with Marcus in the hallway of the renovated building. The walls smelled like fresh paint. The air was cool. Marcus was reading something on his phone. Dana stood a few feet away, unsure whether to speak. Marcus looked up. "You have something to say." Dana swallowed. "I don't want to bother you." Marcus's expression was neutral. "Then don't. Say it anyway if it matters." Dana's throat tightened. "I keep thinking about that day," she admitted. Marcus nodded once. "I figured." Dana's voice was quiet. "I thought I understood what power was. I thought it was being in charge, being correct, protecting the bank, controlling risk." Marcus watched her, silent. Dana continued. "But that day, I used my position like it was a shield, like it made me right automatically." Marcus's gaze stayed steady. Dana swallowed. "And when your boss called you sir, I realized how fast respect changes when people learn who you are." Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. "Respect shouldn't depend on who someone is to you." Dana nodded. "I know. That's what makes it ugly." Marcus's voice was calm. "So what are you going to do with that knowledge?" Dana's mouth went dry. "I don't know," she admitted. "I'm trying to make it part of me, not just a lesson I talk about." Marcus studied her. "You can't change what you did," he said, "but you can change what you do next." Dana nodded, eyes stinging again. "I'm trying." Marcus's voice softened slightly. "Trying is not nothing," he said, "but don't expect it to feel good. Growth rarely does." Dana let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Marcus glanced at his phone again, then looked back at her. "One more thing," he said. Dana's stomach tightened. "Yes." Marcus's voice was steady. "The check was reissued. The delay cost time. It cost momentum. People got nervous." Dana's shame flared. Marcus continued. "But the fund still went through, because the work matters more than the insult." Dana's breath caught. Marcus's eyes held hers. "Do you understand why I'm still here?" Dana swallowed. "Because you believe in the project." Marcus nodded. "And because I refuse to let someone else's smallness decide what I build." Dana felt tears press behind her eyes. She blinked rapidly, refusing to let them fall. Marcus's expression stayed calm, but there was something human in it now, tired, honest. "Don't make me regret giving the bank another chance," he said. Dana's voice was barely above a whisper. I won't. Marcus nodded once, then walked away. Dana stood in the hallway smelling fresh paint and dust and felt something settle inside her. Not peace. Responsibility. The 6-month review finally ended on a bright morning when the light through the branch windows looked almost too clean. Thomas Raines called Dana into his office. Dana sat, heart pounding. Thomas slid a folder across the desk. Your review is complete, he said. Dana's throat tightened. Okay. Thomas's voice was calm. You've met the requirements. Training complete. No procedural issues. Community outreach participation noted. Dana held her breath. Thomas looked at her. You can apply for management roles again after 1 year, if you choose. Dana blinked. After 1 year? Thomas nodded. This isn't a reward. It's a door. You decide what kind of person walks through it. Dana's chest tightened. She hadn't expected to feel conflicted. For years, her identity had been built on rising, on promotion, on being in charge. Now, the idea of managing again didn't feel like victory. It felt like a test. Thomas's gaze stayed steady. One more thing, he said. Dana's stomach tightened. Yes. Thomas's voice softened slightly. Mr. Reed sent a message. He asked that you be invited to the opening of the business hub. Dana's breath caught. Me? Thomas nodded. Yes. Dana swallowed hard. Why would he? Thomas shrugged slightly. Maybe because he wants you to see what your actions almost interrupted. Maybe because he wants you to remember why this matters. Dana nodded slowly. When Dana left the office, she walked through the branch differently. She noticed small things. The nervous tap of a customer's foot, the way a young man's shoulders hunched when he approached the counter, the way an older woman clutched her purse strap like it was armor. Dana realized she hadn't seen these things before. Or maybe she had seen them and ignored them, because they didn't fit the version of banking she wanted to believe in. The opening day of the business hub was sunny and crisp. The renovated building looked brighter than it used to. Fresh signage, clean windows. People gathered outside, talking, laughing, curious. A small stage had been set up for speeches. There were folding chairs, a table with water bottles, community leaders in suits, parents holding children's hands. Dana stood near the back at first, feeling out of place. She wore a simple dress and a cardigan, not her bank blazer. Her hands kept clasping and unclasping. She saw Leonard Price near the front, speaking with city officials. Leonard glanced toward Dana once, face neutral, then looked away. No warmth, no forgiveness, just acknowledgement that she was there. Then Marcus Reed arrived. He didn't arrive like a star. He walked in quietly, shaking hands with a few people, smiling politely. He looked comfortable in this crowd. People greeted him warmly, not with worship, but with respect, with gratitude. Dana watched from a distance, feeling that old shame stir again, mixed with something else, a strange admiration. When Marcus stepped up to the stage to speak, the crowd quieted. He took the microphone and looked out over the people in front of him. His voice wasn't booming. It was steady, clear. This building used to be empty, Marcus said. It used to be a reminder of what happens when investment leaves and people are told to make do with less. Dana listened, breath shallow. Marcus continued. This isn't charity. This is partnership. It's an agreement that talent exists here, ideas exist here, and resources should not be locked behind fear or suspicion. Dana felt the words land like weight. Marcus spoke about grants, loans, training. He spoke about oversight and accountability. He spoke about transparency. He didn't promise miracles. He promised work. Then he said something that made Dana's stomach tighten. And I want to be clear, Marcus said, voice calm. This isn't about one person. It's about a system. It's about how quickly assumptions become actions, and how actions become barriers. Dana's throat tightened. She knew he was speaking partly because of her. Marcus's eyes scanned the crowd, not dramatic, just honest. We can't fix everything, he said, but we can choose what we build next. When he finished, there was applause. People clapped not because they were told to, but because they felt something hopeful and grounded. Dana clapped too, quietly, hands trembling slightly. After the speeches, people wandered inside the building for tours. Dana stood near the entrance, unsure whether to go in. Then she heard her name. Dana. She turned. Marcus stood a few feet away. He didn't smile, but his expression wasn't cold. Dana's breath caught. Mr. Reed. Marcus nodded toward the open doors. Come inside, he said. Dana hesitated. I don't want to intrude. Marcus's voice stayed steady. You're part of this now, whether you like it or not. Dana swallowed hard and stepped forward. Inside, the building smelled like new paint and fresh wood. Sunlight streamed through the windows onto clean floors. People walked through rooms talking about business ideas, asking questions, smiling with cautious excitement. Dana felt tears pressed behind her eyes. Marcus watched her take it in. This almost didn't happen, Dana whispered, voice tight. Marcus's gaze stayed steady. It still happened. Dana swallowed. Because of you. Marcus shook his head slightly. Because of everyone who refused to let it die. Dana nodded slowly, chest tight. They walked a few steps together through the hallway. Dana could feel how people looked at Marcus with respect, how they looked at her with curiosity or confusion. Marcus paused near a room that would be used for advising sessions. There was a small table inside, chairs, whiteboard. He looked at Dana. I want to set a boundary, he said. Dana's stomach tightened. Okay. Marcus's voice was calm. You don't get to turn this into your redemption story. Dana felt the words hit. Her cheeks burned. Marcus continued. This isn't about you feeling better. This is about people getting access without humiliation. Dana swallowed hard. I understand. Marcus's eyes held hers. Do you? Dana nodded slowly. Yes. Marcus watched her for a long moment, then nodded once. Good. They stood in silence for a moment. The hum of voices from other rooms filled the air, the sound of people imagining new futures. Dana whispered, Thank you for not destroying me. Marcus's gaze stayed steady. I didn't do it for you, he said simply. Dana nodded, tears finally slipping down her cheeks. She wiped them quickly, embarrassed. Marcus's voice softened just a fraction. But don't waste what you've been given, he added. Dana nodded again. I won't. Months later, on a day that felt almost identical to the day everything began, Dana stood at the teller counter again. The branch looked the same. The tile floor gleamed. The air conditioning hummed. The soft smell of paper and ink lingered. A man stepped up to her counter. He was black, middle-aged, wearing work boots and a jacket that smelled faintly of oil and outside air. His hands were rough. His posture was cautious. He slid a check across the counter. Dana glanced down. It wasn't 50 million. It was 50,000. The man's voice was quiet. It's for my business. I got approved for a grant. Dana felt her old instinct stir, a flicker of disbelief trying to rise. She didn't let it. She looked up at him and smiled, gently, with warmth that was earned. That's wonderful, Dana said. Congratulations. The man blinked, surprised. Dana continued. Let's do this step by step. I'll verify the check, and I'll explain what happens next. If you have questions, ask me. No rush. The man's shoulders loosened slightly, like he had been carrying tension he didn't want to admit. Thank you, he murmured. Dana nodded, calm. You're welcome. As she processed the deposit, she felt something quiet inside her. Not pride, not control. Presence. Later that afternoon, when the branch slowed and sunlight slanted through the windows, Thomas Raines walked past Dana's station. He paused briefly and looked at her. You handled that well, he said quietly. Dana nodded. Thank you. Thomas studied her for a moment, then continued walking. Dana looked at the glass doors of the bank, watching people come in and out. People with paychecks, with worries, with hopes, with numbers that mattered to them. She remembered the tearing sound again, but this time it didn't paralyze her. It reminded her that the real power wasn't in deciding who belonged. It was in making sure the door stayed open without shame. And somewhere across town, in a building that used to be empty, people sat in new chairs, wrote business plans on clean paper, and asked questions without fear. Dana didn't know what her career would look like in 5 years. She didn't know whether she would become a manager again, but she knew something else now. Belonging was not something you granted when someone proved themselves worthy. Belonging was something you practiced quietly every day, even when no one was watching. And for the first time in a long time, Dana Whitmore felt a kind of calm that didn't come from being in control. It came from being accountable. It came from choosing connection over pride. And it felt, finally, like a gentle exhale.